Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much to the Minister, to the organizer for inviting me here. I'm really delighted to be back in Athens discussing more or less similar issues that we have discussed in our previous encounters, but of course with more arguments in our favor for doing the right thing. We are here in Greece, and I will start by saying Greece has been a long-standing NATO ally that has made significant and very important contributions to our security. You have been consistently investing over 2% of GDP for many years. Unlike some of the countries that needed convincing, unlike some of the countries where this discussion is relatively new, Greece has been very clear about the need to invest in security, and it has committed to further increases of up to 5% by 2035. And this is very much in line with the agreement that all 32 leaders have made last year at the NATO summit in The Hague. So this is very much a leadership that we need, and this is very much a contribution that we expected from an ally like Greece. At NATO headquarters in the last few days, we just finished a series of very important meetings discussing allies' efforts on developing the defense capabilities that we need. And there is really very, very good work that is happening not only across the alliance, but very much in the Greek armed forces. So investing in these defenses, investing in the armed forces of all our allies is definitely what we need in these turbulent times. And there was a lot of discussion about how do we see the challenges for our security, how do we see the threats around us. All this is needed to keep Greece safe, to keep Europe safe, to keep the Euro-Atlantic safe. We have seen that the number of threats around us is increasing. It's basically from the Mediterranean to the Arctic. It's from seabeds to outer space. But it's also from sophisticated cyber attacks to drones and missiles. And the purpose and the goal of the NATO alliance is actually to maintain the security of all 32 allies in dealing with all these threats. We have seen how Russia's war in Ukraine keeps raging on, and it is happening here on European soil. If you take into account jets and missiles, 90 minutes away from us. We have seen how China's military mobilization and nuclear expansion has continued, and it's unrestrained and it's opaque. And for decades, we have seen how Iran is posing a threat to Euro-Atlantic security with its aim of spreading terror, chaos, and blackmail. So faced with all these difficult and visible dangers, it is only a strong and credible military force that will keep us safe. And this is where some of us have had probably other more optimistic versions in the past. We have believed that hard power is no longer needed after the proclaimed end of history. So this has been proven wrong, and what was clear is that investing more in our security is an obligation for all of us, not just now, but for many years to come. And this is very much what was mentioned at the beginning of our conference. Even when the Russian war in Ukraine ends, the need to continue increasing our defenses, strengthening our deterrence, will continue. And this is very much behind the agreement that we have made in The Hague last year. So this is our focus in NATO. And the good news is that we are making progress. Several European allies are already close to hitting the 5% mark. One or two are actually already there, and others have very clear, very precise plans in place to reach it in the coming years. It is very clear that some of the allies have actually decided to make the timeline more ambitious, and instead of doing it in 10 years, Many allies are actually planning on getting to 5% by 2030. And this clearly is a path for what we want to see as strong Europe in stronger NATO. And these are the two important issues that we will deal with at our summit in Ankara. European allies are now on a clear trajectory to equalize their defense spending with the United States, an issue that we have been discussing for decades, and also to take greater responsibility for their own conventional deterrence. This is making the NATO alliance stronger, it is making our alliance fairer, it is making the transatlantic bond also more mature and stronger. So this is what we see as our way forward. But of course, putting cash on the table is important, but it is not enough. What we need and where our focus will be for the next summit is actually getting the right capabilities and having the right armed forces with the right interoperability, with the right training. So this is where all of you, especially representatives from defense industries, come in. We do need more firepower. We need both heavy metal and the advanced technologies that several of the speakers were talking about. And we need these things coming from our industries a lot faster than in the past. We need ammunition, we need the air defenses, we need long-range capabilities, armored systems. We do need the drones and the counter-drones, and we need them at speed and at scale, which matches the moment. And unfortunately, on some of these issues, especially on the issue of speed, we are still not there. We see with the war in Ukraine and the conflict in the Middle East that demand for ammunition, interceptors, anti-drone capabilities, to just name a few, is very high. And the supply is still inefficient. This is a very simple math equation that we have. It's all about numbers. It is what we spend in volume and what we produce at pace. And we need to have a balanced math equation here. At the same time, we know that Russia is producing equipment around the clock with a lot of collaboration from the partners that I've mentioned. So replenishing our stockpiles and manufacturing a lot more and a lot quicker will be the priority for our next summit and beyond. And we do see the need to really send this message of urgency not only to allies and to governments, because they know it, but also to our societies and especially to our defense industry. This is why when we meet defense industries, we have the same call. Keeping 1 billion people safe across Europe and North America is not just a job for NATO and allied militaries alone. Our industry is also part of it. Our industry also has a responsibility because you develop and you produce the capabilities that we need for our security. So Greece is playing a part. It was great to hear the ministers, but also the other participants to hear how you are procuring frigates, air defense, combat aircraft, technology systems. All these things matter, and all these things enhance NATO's readiness and our collective security. But we need more of it. We need to produce more, we need to procure more, we need to innovate more, and we need to do all these things together across Europe, Canada, and the United States. I fully agree with what was said previously. We need a stronger and more capable European defense with re-energized European defense industries, European strong defense companies. This is good for our collective defense. This is good also for our economy. But at the same time, and this was the call that the Secretary General made very clearly, we have to be clear-eyed and we have to be very realistic when it comes to our security. A continued and strong US presence, both nuclear and conventional, remains imperative for the security in Europe. The reality is that without the US arms programs like Pearl, the thing that we were organizing within NATO, without the US intelligence support, Ukraine would have suffered much more to hold back Russian aggression. Without the US nuclear umbrella our freedom would be in danger. And without some US state-of-the-art capabilities, our defenses would be weaker, frailer. So this is definitely a message that we also send to the other side of the Atlantic. Without Europe, US defenses would also be weaker. And this is why we believe that, especially now, as we are confronted with more challenges, with more threats to our security, it would be reckless to go it alone, both for Europe and for America. And this is why we focus on building a stronger Europe within a stronger alliance, within a stronger NATO. We must leverage the industry, the assets, the ideas that we have on both sides of the Atlantic. And we must tap into the incredible pool of talent, the innovators, the entrepreneurs, the industry, the creativity and experience that we also have on both sides of the Atlantic. This is why we believe that the transatlantic industrial cooperation comes with great benefits for your businesses, but also for our security. And at the same time, we will continue to build also strong industrial ties with our partners. We have much to learn from each other, and we can share expertise and spark greater innovation. We have spoken about the cooperation that we have with the European Union. We do invest a lot of efforts in creating a lot of cooperation and ties with our Ukrainian colleagues, because they have seen modern warfare firsthand. And there are lessons that we can learn, but there is also a lot of cooperation from our side that supports them in their justified fight. And we are also enhancing our ties with partner countries in the Indo-Pacific, the so-called IP4, that also bring a lot of expertise and knowledge to the table. So it is in our shared interest to continue working together, and this is why we see a lot of industrial production and cooperation, but we also see a lot of NATO allies and EU member states already producing capabilities in cooperation with Ukraine and investing directly in Ukrainian defense industry. And we do believe that we stand a lot to gain from this cooperation. In Ankara this July, on the margins of the NATO summit, we will organize a big summit defense industry forum. And this is not only to invite the industry, but this is really to show that what matters is not only the defense investment, it is not only the defense budgets that we need, but it is the capabilities that we will procure and that we will build and produce. So we do believe that we will see many of you at the industry forum. We do count on allies making use of the summit to show that there are big deliverables for the summit, that there are joint procurements, that there are new capabilities, that there is really a stronger Europe within a stronger alliance. And this is definitely a fight and a process in which we will continue to work hand in hand with all 32 allies, but also with the defense industry that has become part of our deterrence and defense. So this is something that we need for our security, and we count on all of you to support us in that respect. Thank you very much for the attention.